You made more money last month than your uncle makes in an entire year. Your investment portfolio has been growing quietly in the background for the last 3 years without you touching it. You own assets, like real ones, the kind that pay you while you sleep, while you eat, while you sit at that exact dinner table saying absolutely nothing about any of it. That is the game. That is what silent wealth looks like. Not loud, not flashy, not announced, just real, compounding, unstoppable financial growth happening underneath the surface while everyone else is too busy performing to actually build anything. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to build it, step by step from the ground up, without posting about it on social media, without telling anyone at work, without making a single sound about it. Because here's the thing I've learned from studying wealthy people for years. The ones who are really winning are never the loudest ones in the room. My name is Max. And if you're new here, this channel is about one thing and one thing only: building real, lasting wealth without the noise, without the gimmicks, and without the fake guru nonsense. So let's get into it. Part 1. Why the loudest people are usually the brokest. Let me say something that's going to sound harsh, but it is completely and verifiably true. The people who talk the most about money are usually the ones who have the least of it. Think about the people you know personally who are always talking about their income, always posting their lifestyle, always flexing the new watch or the new apartment or the new car. Now think about the actual wealthy people you've come across in your life, the ones with real money. Not Instagram money, not Lisa Lambo money, but actual generational, life-changing net worth. What do they look like? How do they dress? What do they drive? How do they talk? They dress quietly. They drive normal cars. They don't announce their portfolio at dinner parties. They don't post their salary on LinkedIn. They sit in the back of the room and let everyone else talk. And there's a very specific reason for that. One that goes beyond just personality. When you are truly building wealth, you don't have time to perform it. You are too busy compounding it. There's a psychological phenomenon called social wealth signaling, and it is one of the most financially destructive habits a person can have. Every dollar you spend trying to show people you have money is a dollar that is no longer being invested and compounding. Every hour you spend curating an image of success on social media is an hour you are not spending on the actual behaviors that create success. The cost of performing wealth is not just the money you visibly spend, it is the entire future value of that money, which over decades is enormous. The rich stay rich, partly because they stop caring about looking rich. Not because they're miserable or repressed, but because they've genuinely moved past needing external validation for their financial decisions. They know what's in their accounts. That's enough. And here's the brutal truth about the financial content you see everywhere online. Most of those creators showing you their passive income and their results are selling you a lifestyle they can barely afford themselves. The flashy thumbnails, the rented Lamborghinis, the stacks of cash. It is theater. It is a product designed to sell you a course. The real wealth builders are invisible. They are not in your Instagram feed. They are in their brokerage accounts, quietly adding to positions, checking their net worth quarterly, and saying nothing. So, the very first step to getting rich silently is this. You have to mentally detach from the performance of wealth entirely. You have to reach a place where you genuinely stop wanting people to know you're building something. Because the moment you start building for an audience, you stop building for yourself. You start making financial decisions based on how they look rather than how they compound. This is harder than it sounds. We are socially wired for validation. But this mental shift is the foundation of everything that follows. Get this right, and everything else becomes dramatically easier. Part 2. The Invisible Income Architecture. Now, let's talk about the actual structure of silent wealth, because it is not random. It does not happen by accident. It follows a very specific 3-layer architecture that almost nobody teaches you, certainly not in school and rarely even in finance books. I call it the invisible income architecture. Every wealthy person I've ever studied has some version of this, whether they built it intentionally or stumbled into it over time through trial and error. Layer 1. Active income, maximized. This is your job, your freelance work, your business. The thing that generates your primary paycheck, right? Now, most people stop here. They earn a salary, they spend the salary, they wonder at the end of every month why nothing is changing. The mistake is not having active income. The mistake is treating it as a destination instead of a launch pad. Your active income is rocket fuel, nothing more. And the goal is to maximize that fuel output as efficiently as possible. The way you do that is not by working more hours. Burning yourself out trading time for money is not a wealth strategy. It's just exhaustion with extra steps. The way you maximize active income is by becoming exponentially more valuable in the marketplace. This means developing high-income skills, skills that the market rewards disproportionately to the hours required. Things like software development, sales, copywriting, financial analysis, digital marketing, negotiation, product management, data science. In every one of these fields, the gap between a mediocre practitioner and a genuinely skilled one is measured in tens of thousands of dollars per year, sometimes 6 figures per year. If you're employed, make yourself undeniable. Study your industry obsessively. Become the person in the building who understands both the technical side and the business side. That person always gets paid more. Switch jobs strategically, not impulsively, but every 2 to 3 years if the opportunities are right. The data is clear. People who switch jobs earn significantly more over their careers than those who stay loyal to a single employer who is not matching their growing market value. If you're running a business or freelancing, niche down until it hurts. Stop trying to serve everyone. Serve one specific type of client with one specific outcome better than anyone else on the planet. Generalists struggle. Specialists charge what they want. The point of Layer 1 is simple. Generate as much fuel as possible so you have more to pour into Layers 2 and 3. Layer 2, automated assets that work. Without you. This is where the silence begins. This is where the magic starts compounding underneath the surface. Automated assets are income-generating things that do not require your daily active involvement. They can be financial, stocks, index funds, bonds, dividend-paying equities, REITs. They can be digital, content that earns advertising or affiliate revenue long after you created it. They can be physical, rental properties, equipment leasing. They can be intellectual, royalties from software, books, music, or online courses. The defining characteristic of every Layer 2 asset is this. It works when you don't. The earlier you start building Layer 2, the more disproportionately powerful it becomes. This is compounding, the most important force in personal finance, the one Einstein allegedly called the 8th wonder of the world, and the one that most people intellectually understand but emotionally underestimate. Here's a concrete example to feel it in: your gut. If you invest $500 per month starting at 25 years old, earning an average of 8% annually, you will have approximately $1.7 million by 65. If you wait until 35 to start, investing the exact same amount, same return for 30 years instead of 40, you end up with around $760,000. That 1 decade of delay didn't cost you $60,000 of contributions. It cost you nearly $1 million in lost compounding. The money you failed to invest did not just sit still. It evaporated into a future that never materialized. Start Layer 2 now. Not when you feel financially comfortable. Not when you've paid off all your debt. Not when you feel ready. Because that feeling of readiness rarely comes on its own. You have to manufacture it by starting anyway. Layer 3, equity and true ownership. This is the top of the pyramid. This is where genuinely life-altering wealth is created through ownership of things that grow. Equity means you own a piece of something whose value compounds over time. It could be equity in a business you started. It could be equity in a company through stock ownership. It could be real estate equity that builds as your mortgage is paid down and the property appreciates. It could be ownership of intellectual property, a patent, a brand, a piece of software that generates royalties or licensing fees. The shift from worker to owner is the single most financially significant transition you will ever make in your life. Workers trade time for money and have an income ceiling. Owners build or acquire systems that generate money, and their ceiling is as high as the systems they own. The wealthiest people in the world are not the hardest workers. They are the biggest owners. You do not need to start a company from scratch to access Layer 3. Buying index funds is buying equity in thousands of companies simultaneously. Purchasing a rental property is buying real estate equity. Getting stock options from your employer is a form of ownership. The mindset shift is simple but powerful. Every dollar you control should be moving toward owning something that grows in value over time. Part 3. The silent habits nobody sees. The real competitive advantage of wealthy people is not secret knowledge. It is not access to exclusive investment vehicles or insider information. It is habits. Boring, invisible, consistently executed habits that accumulate enormous advantages over time while everyone else is distracted by noise. The savings rate is everything. Forget your income for a moment. Focus entirely on your savings rate, the percentage of your income you actually keep and deploy. This single number is the most controllable variable in your financial life, and it matters more than how much you earn. People with high incomes and low savings rates stay broke. This is not rare. This is the norm among high earners who were never taught financial discipline. And people with moderate incomes and high savings rates build meaningful wealth. Not theory, mathematics. The wealthy people who maintain and grow their wealth share one consistent habit. They pay themselves first, automatically and without negotiation. Before their income hits their spending account, a fixed percentage is automatically routed into investment accounts. They never see it. They stop missing it within a month or two. And over years, it silently becomes something extraordinary. Start at 10% if you're just beginning. Push toward 20 as you earn more. Aim for 30 if you can get there without destroying your quality of life. Every percentage point you increase your savings rate is real time removed from your timeline to financial independence. Strategic underliving. There is a difference between being frugal because you have no choice and being intentionally minimalist because you fully understand the compounding cost of lifestyle inflation. The wealthy people who stay wealthy practice what I call strategic underliving. They could afford the bigger house, but they don't need the statement it makes. They could lease the luxury vehicle, but they'd rather let that $1,500 per month grow in a brokerage account for 20 years. They are not depriving themselves. They have genuinely reprogrammed their value system so that freedom and optionality matter more to them than appearance and performance. This does not mean living miserably. It means being ruthlessly selective. Spend generously on what genuinely enriches your life: travel, health, meaningful experiences, quality relationships. Cut without mercy on everything that is purely performance. The question to ask before every significant purchase is not, can I afford this? But does this move me closer to freedom or further from it? The compounding knowledge habit. Read every single day. Not social media, not news that provokes anxiety without producing knowledge. Books, long-form content, biographies of people who built things, finance, psychology, history, strategy. 30 minutes of reading per day, one quality book every 2 weeks. That is 24 books per year. Over a decade, 240 books. The average person reads fewer than 5 books per year. In 10 years, you will have read 200 more books than most people around you. That gap in knowledge compounds directly into better decisions in business, in investing, in negotiation, in everything. The silence rule. I want to return to this because it underpins the entire philosophy. Do not talk about what you are building, not out of shame, not out of secrecy for its own sake, but because silence protects momentum in a way most people never consider. Research in behavioral psychology has shown consistently that when people publicly announce their goals, their brains register a premature sense of social reward, a kind of false completion that actually reduces their motivation to follow through. The announcement feels like progress. It is not progress, it is theater. Keep your portfolio private. Keep your income private. Keep your investment strategy private. Let the results speak, eventually quietly in the form of real freedom that requires no announcement whatsoever. Part 4. The investments that build wealth in silence. Let's be specific, because vague investment advice is worse than useless. Index funds. Boring, proven, powerful. If you do one thing on this entire list, do this. Open a brokerage account today. Set up automatic monthly contributions into a low-cost, broad market index fund, one that tracks the S&P 500 or the total world market. Set the contribution to happen automatically. Do not touch it. Do not adjust it based on headlines. Repeat for 15 to 25 years. You will almost certainly, end up a millionaire. Without drama, without timing the market, without day trading. Just consistent, quiet participation in the long-term growth of global economies. The S&P 500 has returned an average of roughly 10% per year across its history, through world wars, recessions, crashes, pandemics, political crises, and every catastrophe the modern era has produced. The investors who try to beat that return consistently are so rare that the vast majority of professional fund managers fail to do it over 10-year periods. So stop trying to outperform the market. Outpatience it instead. And that patience compounded over decades is worth millions. Real estate, the leverage asset. Real estate is unique because of leverage. You can control a $400,000 asset with $80,000 of your own capital. That asset appreciates, generates rental income, provides significant tax advantages, and builds equity through mortgage paydown. 4. Simultaneous wealth-building mechanisms on one investment. You do not need to flip houses. You do not need to become a full-time landlord managing dozens of units. One well-chosen rental property in a market with genuine demand, population growth, job growth, infrastructure development, can generate meaningful passive income while appreciating quietly for 20 or 30 years. Buy for cash flow first, buy in markets with real fundamentals, use leverage carefully, and never overextend. Real estate purchased intelligently is one of the most powerful silent wealth-building tools in existence. Your skills are your most durable asset. Stocks can crash, currencies inflate, companies fail, real estate markets correct. But if you know how to build software, close complex sales, manage financial systems, create audiences, or solve expensive business problems, that knowledge is permanent, portable, and always in demand. Every year, deliberately invest in your skill stack. Take the course, pursue the certification, put in the deliberate practice hours even when it's uncomfortable. The compounding return on skill development, especially in your 20s and 30s, is arguably higher than any financial instrument you can purchase, because better skills produce higher income, which produces more capital to invest in everything else. Part 5. the psychology of staying quiet and winning. Long-delayed gratification as a superpower. Every financial sacrifice you make today is being multiplied by time and compounded into your future. The dinner out you skipped, the upgrade you delayed, the subscription you canceled. These are not just saved dollars. They are future dollars, amplified by compounding, quietly accumulating in accounts you rarely check and almost never discuss. Developing a genuine relationship with future value, feeling in the present moment what a dollar is truly worth when given 20 years to compound, is one of the rarest and most powerful financial skills a person can develop. Most people live in the financial present tense. The wealthy live in a mental time frame that stretches decades forward. Identity before achievement. Before you have the wealth, you have to become the kind of person who builds it. Identity precedes achievement. Every time. Start thinking of yourself as an investor, not as someone who might invest someday, but as someone who is an investor right now, at whatever level you're currently at. Make decisions as that person. Turn down purchases as that person. Stay consistent as that person. That identity, reinforced by small daily behaviors and compounded over years, produces outcomes that feel impossible from the outside but inevitable from the inside. Protect your attention. Like your net worth depends on it, because it does. The modern attention economy is engineered to extract your time, your emotional energy, and ultimately your money. Financial news creates anxiety that drives poor decisions. Social media creates comparison that drives lifestyle inflation. Endless content consumption creates the feeling of learning without the actual behaviors of building. Silent wealth requires protected attention. Turn off financial news notifications. Stop checking your portfolio every day. It changes nothing and damages your decision-making. Reduce the volume on all channels. The market will do exactly what it will do. Your job is to stay the course, keep contributing, and refuse to react emotionally to temporary fluctuations in things you own for the long term.